I'll never forget the morning I opened my mailbox and found a letter that made my blood boil. It wasn't just another HOA notice, it was a formal violation report claiming my garden shed was illegal construction and had to be torn down within 14 days. That shed wasn't just wood and nails, it was where I stored tools I'd inherited from my father, a craftsman who taught me everything I knew about building. And now, because of one meddling neighbor, they wanted it gone. If you enjoy stories where ordinary homeowners fight back against unfair HOAs and win, make sure you hit subscribe. You won't want to miss the justice that comes in this one. I stood in my backyard staring at the little shed. It was sturdy, painted neatly, and tucked away in the corner where it bothered no one. In fact, several neighbors had complimented me on how nice it looked. But apparently, Karen, the self-appointed neighborhood watchdog, didn't agree. 2 days later, she showed up at my front door with her trademark scowl. "You can't just build whatever you want," she snapped, crossing her arms. "This is a community with standards. Your shed is an eyesore." I forced a smile. "Karen, it's on my property. It matches the house. And it's within size limits." Her lips curled. "I've already reported you to the HOA. They'll fine you until you take it down." And with that, she stormed off, heels clicking against the pavement. At first, I thought it would blow over. My shed wasn't hurting anyone. But the HOA board didn't see it that way. Within a week, I got another letter, this time demanding $500 in fines and a notice that legal action could follow if I refused. I called the office, trying to reason with them. This shed is perfectly within code. I even checked with the county before building it. The HOA rep on the line sighed. "Sir, we've had a complaint. Once it's filed, we have to enforce it." I gritted my teeth. "Even if the complaint is baseless?" "Rules are rules," came the smug reply. That was the start of the harassment. Every few days, another notice arrived. Karen made sure to walk past my backyard, glaring, sometimes snapping photos on her phone. Neighbors started whispering, some out of sympathy, others out of fear they might be next. The breaking point came when I received a final warning: tear the shed down or face court action. I sat at my kitchen table staring at that letter, anger simmering. That shed wasn't just storage, it was my father's legacy. He built furniture, repaired tools, and taught me the value of hard work in places just like that. Destroying it felt like destroying a part of him. And that's when I decided, I wasn't going to be bullied. The next board meeting was packed, but of course, Karen was front and center, smirking as if she'd already won. I stood up when it was my turn to speak. "This shed is legal," I said firmly. "I checked with the county office before building. I followed every guideline." Greg, the HOA president, waved his hand dismissively. "That may be your belief, but we've determined otherwise." "Your determination doesn't override county law," I shot back. The room went quiet. Karen's smirk faltered for a split second, but she quickly regained it. Greg cleared his throat. "Either you remove it, or we will pursue damages." That was their mistake, thinking I'd roll over. Because instead of tearing my shed down, I gathered every receipt, every permit, every photo I had. And I filed a case of my own, against the HOA. As I handed the paperwork to the clerk at the courthouse, I couldn't help but smile. They wanted a fight. They were about to get one, in front of a judge who wouldn't care about Karen's gossip or Greg's smug grin. The judgment changed everything. After the ruling, I drove back home with a sense of relief but also a burning determination. My neighbors were waiting for me at the cul-de-sac when I pulled into my driveway. News had spread faster than wildfire. Some clapped, some gave me a thumbs up, and one whispered, "It's about time someone stood up to them." Karen, however, was not done. The very next morning, I woke up to find a fresh violation notice taped to my door. "Unapproved garden flagpole," it read. I looked at it and laughed. It was just a small decorative flag my daughter had put up with sunflowers on it. They were so desperate to intimidate me that they'd started targeting anything they could. I filed another complaint with my lawyer. This time, he didn't even hesitate. "They're retaliating," he said firmly. "We'll get this one dismissed instantly and add it to the damages claim." Sure enough, when the case reached the judge again, she frowned deeply. "Retaliation against a homeowner exercising their legal right will not be tolerated." She signed an order that not only dismissed the bogus flagpole violation but also instructed the HOA to cover all legal fees I had incurred so far. That was another blow to their already crumbling finances. Karen's smug smile had disappeared by then. But I wasn't satisfied. This wasn't just about me anymore. I'd seen too many neighbors bullied, fined, or shamed into submission. It was time to fight back on behalf of everyone. I called for a neighborhood meeting. At first, people hesitated. Many feared retaliation. But when I explained the judge's rulings and showed them the paperwork, a fire lit in their eyes. "They can't keep pushing us around," one elderly neighbor said. "We've lived here 20 years, and this board has gotten worse every year." We drafted a petition demanding new elections for the HOA board. According to the bylaws, if a certain percentage of homeowners signed, the board was forced to hold a recall vote. Karen scoffed when she heard about it. "No one will stand against us," she sneered. But she was wrong. Within a week, we had nearly double the signatures required. On the night of the recall meeting, the community center was packed. Karen stood at the front, her arms folded, trying to maintain her usual arrogance. But her confidence faltered when resident after resident stood up to share their grievances: bogus fines, harassment, threats, and petty power plays. By the time the final vote was tallied, the entire board had been voted out. The room erupted in cheers. Karen stormed out, red-faced, muttering threats under her breath. I didn't run for a position myself, but I supported a group of fair-minded neighbors who promised transparency and reason. They were elected unanimously. The first thing the new board did? Drop all outstanding fines against homeowners and refund fees that had been unfairly collected. The second? Publicly apologize to me and my family for the harassment we endured. But the sweetest moment came a month later. Karen herself received a court order. The damages owed to me were to be collected directly from her, since she had initiated the complaint against my shed in the first place. She had to write me a personal check for several $1,000s. When I deposited it at the bank, I couldn't help but laugh. The same woman who once threatened to tear down that eyesore had now paid for my shed's new paint job, the landscaping around it, and even a small patio extension. Now, every time I sit out there, drink my coffee, and watch the sunset from beside my shed, I think of Karen. She wanted to make my life miserable. Instead, she paid for one of the nicest parts of my property. And the best part? The whole neighborhood is finally free of her tyranny.